This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Fantasy Fanalysts podcast. Week 17 is now upon us. We just got through championship week for any self-respecting league, I'd say. Hopefully you guys all came out. If you were in your championship, hopefully you guys all came out with that trophy.
I did not.
Yeah, I was about to ask you how your week went, but I can't really know how your week went.
I mean, okay. Let me preface everything by saying, like, my team performed well. Mm-hmm. I had a good week. If I had to gauge it on how the rest of my season went, it was an above average scoring week. Mm-hmm. I had very solid performances from just about everybody, except my quarterback, Kyler Murray, kind of shit the bed. But
he did get hurt in the game.
In the last play of the game.
But he got hurt. That last play could have been a touchdown.
It wasn't going to be. The one play that honestly it brings back nightmares is when he underthrew Christian Kirk in the end zone for the pick. That play right there lost me the entire matchup. Regardless, I had a good lead. Like, I had a 34-point lead going into Monday night. I also had Tyler Bass, the Buffalo kicker, going in that Monday night game, and my opponent had Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, as I've said before, I hate the way that quarterbacks are scored. I honestly really don't like the scoring in this league in particular. Like, I don't like the way this league is scored at all. Mm-hmm. The bonuses are outrageous. Pass catchers and quarterbacks are way out, like, imbalanced. Running backs are, unless they have a Derrick Henry or Dalvin Cook like game, running backs are almost just not worth it at this point. Like, pass catchers for hitting 100 yards hit a massive bonus, hitting 150 yards, hit a 5-point bonus. Like, it's and plus
a 150-yard bonus.
Yeah, and it's a 5-point bonus.
We always just had the 100-yard bonus, and then if you got the 200, you're just okay, cool. You got 200, but you don't get another bonus.
Mind you,
and especially not at 150. You get the 100-yard, and that's it.
We have a 3-point bonus at 100, a 5-point bonus at 150, and another 5-point bonus at 200.
If you had a 200-yard week, you're already having a huge week out of your wide receiver. There's no need to add.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, pass catchers are super imbalanced, because again, it's already a full point PPR, so they're already a little bit overvalued. And then you add that aspect, and it's ridiculous. I mean, mind you, running backs do have a similar bonus, but they don't have the added impact of the full point PPR unless you're a complete pass catching back. Yeah. So it running back value isn't as high.
Yeah. No, the leagues that I run, it's always 2-point bonus for a 100-yard receiving game, 2-point bonus for a 100-yard rushing game, 2-point bonus for a 300-yard passing game.
That's how it should be. I mean, that's even if you want to do bonuses. I don't necessarily even believe you have to do bonuses. And I also think a full point PPR is over impacting pass catchers also. So
if you do a full point PPR, I don't think you should do bonuses.
I don't either. I really don't at all. And then for pass catchers, he's got.
I don't like seeing scores that are like 185 to 250. I don't like seeing those.
I mean, mind you, the highest score in this league this year was a 201 point score. And mind you, there's a lot of scoring in this league, but it was 20. It was like 201, and it was a week that a quarterback put up 50 points and one of his pass catchers put up 50 points. So it was ridiculous. That same guy also had Alvin Kamara going in the losers bracket this week. But quarterbacks have a 3-point bonus for 300 yards, and they also have 6-point passing touchdowns.
Wow.
So quarterbacks are obviously very imbalanced as well, to where I actually went back, because I had this argument with the commissioner, and we got into it a little bit, but because essentially that's what lost me this week, the championship, was the fact that the quarterbacks are so overpowered. Like, they are totally imbalanced. I went back to every single matchup of the year. The guy who had the higher scoring quarterback vastly won more matchups than the guy who had the lesser scoring quarterback. And at least 5 of the matchups that the lesser quarterback won were the scoring difference between the quarterbacks was within a point.
So it behooves you to draft a quarterback early in this league.
I thought I was drafting quarterback early by drafting Kyler Murray in the 5th round. I knew that from last year. And mind you, I learned that last year because I had Lamar Jackson last year.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a huge impact. So I was like, all right, I'm taking a quarterback early. I drafted him in the 5th round. I don't know when Josh Allen was drafted. I want to say 4th or 5th round. So I went ahead, and it did work out for me. Like, it did benefit me a little bit. Granted, Justin Herbert was in my lineup more so than Kyler Murray late in the year, but it did benefit me. So, but anyways, I ended up losing by a point based on the Josh Allen final touchdown and the 3-point bonus with the six passing touchdowns on Monday night. And Tyler Bass couldn't get me a field goal in garbage time. I was very upset when Matt Barkley couldn't push the ball down the field. But I lost by a point. It was devastating. I was very upset. I was punching air. I was trying to be ever so quiet because my girlfriend that I live with was upstairs sleeping because I believe she had work the next day. I was very upset. It was upsetting. It was a rough way to lose a championship. So, and I hate the scoring so much in this league. I am actually considering not playing in the league next year, and I've voiced that to the commissioner next year. Or I've voiced that to the commissioner as well.
Haven't you said you said before this show that you're campaigning to be commissioner of this league next year? Is that still a thing, or
it's not going to happen? This guy's been the commissioner for over 10 years, so it's not going to happen. I threw it out there and it was shot down. But yeah,
co-commissioner. I brought in a co-commissioner in my league.
I think a co-commissioner is a great idea because it keeps the balance of power in check. But again, it's probably not going to happen. He's been the commissioner of this league from the very beginning, so it's not going to happen. But
that's how I work with my co-commissioner. It's like I still do all the stuff, but then like because he's also commissioner of like 3 leagues himself. So like I'll just if there's something that I want to consult with, like I'll just consult him on like if there's an issue arises with the league and stuff. Like he's almost like a consultant.
Right.
It's fun though. But if it's any consolation, that Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs stack hurt me too. But not as much as you, obviously.
Yeah, I lost a few $100s on that.
I played in a 100-person contest this week in one of my lineups. I played in a 100-person contest, and I did the Andy Dalton Gallup stack. I actually did that in all my lineups. The Andy Dalton. Actually, no, one of them I didn't. I put Tom Brady instead of Andy Dalton. One of them because I could afford it. But I played the Andy Dalton Gallup stack. Rode that to being the only person in the money that didn't have Alvin Kamara.
Nice.
Because this was an all games 100 person pool. It wasn't just like the Sunday main slate. And so I was and then I got bumped back a spot by that. Someone came out of nowhere with a Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs stack, went back a spot. I mean, I didn't lose a couple $100, but
yeah,
but it was a dip in payout, and it was annoying. And then I was no longer the only person in the money that didn't have Alvin Kamara. I kind of like that having that on my chest. But no, I had a good week. I won 2 leagues. I was in the money in the $100 tournament thing. I did a Seattle Rams head-to-head after our conversation on last week's podcast. I was actually really curious how it was going to turn out. So I'm like, I feel like there's going to be a lot of people on both sides of this. So it'll be a fun head-to-head play. So I did that, and
the game did not go the way I expected. Yeah. Like Seattle's players were not good. The Rams players were not good. Like nobody performed that well in that game.
That's it, and that's kind of what I expected. And I was expecting Reynolds to actually have a bigger game than he did, but I did take solace in the fact that I think he was tied for the team lead in targets.
I believe he was. I think Cooper Kupp ended up being the best receiver in the matchup there. Outside of maybe Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett still actually performed halfway decent, if I recall.
Like we said last week, DK Metcalf was
garbage,
terrible.
as expected.
Don't play wide receiver against Jalen Ramsey.
No.
But yeah, if you took my advice on playing the Andy Dalton Gallup stack this week, you probably made some money.
You probably did. I mean, it was a really good stack. I mean, I will say that I did have some success this week, and obviously my focus was the championship, but I did win in back-to-back weeks our FanDuel league.
There you go.
I did win that back-to-back, so I potentially end. I don't know if we're going to be able to.
Yeah, you beat me by what was it, like 0.08, right?
0.08, and it was because they benched Aaron Rodgers to take the knee.
Who pulls the quarterback for the kneel down? Who does that?
I was so happy. Aaron Rodgers gets it. Was the
Are
garbage.
You sure you're not the coach of the Packers?
I may be. I texted him real quick. I texted Matt LaFleur. I was like, yo. Bench Aaron for the kneel down. I actually have there's a reason I believe they did that, and I'll explain that in a second. But so the only reason I ended up pulling ahead in the first place was the garbage time points of Devontae Adams, because you had a good cushion. You had like a 25-point cushion on me,
and I had Devontae as well
going into the night game. And you had Devontae Adams, I had Devontae Adams, but I also had Aaron Rodgers. And then once the garbage time points went to Aaron Rodgers, I went, oh, is that enough? Oh, it is. And then they came out and who'd they play?
It was that Equanimous St. Brown touchdown that did me in.
Yep, that hurt too. Who'd they play? Was it the Bears? No. The Bears played the Jags.
Titans, I think, right?
Was it the Titans? I don't remember. But was it? Okay. Whoever they played, like they put in their backup quarterback in their final drive, right? Mm-hmm. That was why I felt like they put the Packers out of respect, like as you put your backup in, we'll put our backup in kind of a deal. And then they, put them in for the kneel downs and that was it. Like Aaron was done. When I saw the backup come out though, I was jumping for joy.
But like I was because normally I'd be like, no, I just want a rushing touchdown. Like I already have the game where I don't need Devontae Adams to do well, but I actually had Devontae Adams in a lot of lineups, and I was pulling ahead with those Devontae Adams touchdowns in a bunch of different lineups. So I wanted to keep going, but it was that Equanimous St. Brown touchdown. I'm like, why? And then pulling him out. I don't know why they did that. I'm so
I was laughing my ass off.
Yeah.
Again, punching the air, but this time in joy. So, but I mean, it wasn't all a bad week. I did win some money this week. Obviously, second place still gets a pretty decent payout in our fantasy league. But I would have liked to have that championship under my belt as well. There, I have a few in my lifetime, actually a decent amount in my lifetime. But this one would have been a real good one. But either way, you win some, you lose some, and you come back next year and you get better. So
exactly. All right, so with it being week 17, I'm assuming a lot of your leagues are done, and if you're in an actual season-long league that is playing their championship this week, I question your commissioner's decision-making. But
yes, if you no fantasy year-long fantasy league should ever end in week 17, ever. Ever. There are too many players that end up sitting out.
Yep. So, but again, DFS still going strong.
Week 17 is honestly my favorite week in DFS because it's so random and you can get some crazy ass value plays that are awesome. So, a la Matt Flynn against the Lions quite a few years back.
Yeah. Obviously, what's at the forefront of every DFS player's mind in week 17 is what games matter, what games don't. Who's going to be resting your starters, who's going to be playing the starters the whole game. So I'm thinking that's what we kick off with today is let's just talk about some of the matchups and there's a lot of winning your in games this year. This is probably one of the most bountiful week 17s that I've seen. First off, I want to talk about the Cowboys-Giants matchup. Winner of this game makes the playoffs as long as Washington loses on Sunday night. As long as Philly can beat the Washington football team on Sunday night, winner of Cowboys-Giants makes the playoffs. That means both teams are going to be playing starters. Now, you probably don't have a lot of starters in the Giants. Let's be honest here. You're probably not really looking the Giants' way.
Hint. I think there's one in particular you can really look at, and I'll get into that later.
Okay.
One in particular that I think is a crazy good value play.
But the Cowboys, I think you're full go if you're trying to play. If you're trying to buy in on Zeke Elliott, if you're trying to buy in one of the receivers, you have a good idea of who you think is going to do well. I mean, the Giants are a pretty good defense. They've been burned the last couple of weeks, but I think this is a game where you're a full go if you got any fantasy guys that you want to look at in this game.
Oh, absolutely. I think the Cowboys have some options there. I mean, Andy Dalton has actually been a little bit better than advertised, and it's actually caused his price tag to go above $7,000 against the Giants defense that's fifth against quarterbacks, though. I might shy away from Andy Dalton this week, but that doesn't really scare me away from the wide receivers too much because guys like Michael Gallup that Andy Dalton very obviously has developed a really good rapport with, that's someone I may be targeting who is going to be pretty middle of the pack in terms of price. I'll get you his actual price. Where is he? I don't see him in this list. Where'd he go? Anyways, who could actually be... Okay, $6,200. So he's pretty damn cheap. So Michael Gallup actually may be a pretty solid value play there. But in terms of the Giants, I don't quite know that there's anybody I really focus in on outside of one guy in particular. And like I said, I'll mention him. And
I'm really curious to hear who you're going to mention the Giants side of the ball. I don't think I've played a Giants player all season in DFS.
Oh, I have.
Maybe I did Wayne Gallman 1 week.
You did Evan Ingram 1 week and it burned you.
Wait, who?
Evan Ingram.
Oh yeah, yep.
I have played a couple Giants players, some moderate success. You just got to pick your weeks with the Giants. Now, there is one guy in particular I think is poised to have actually a really big week, and that is value. It's something to pay attention to. But beyond that, I mean, the Giants are a solid defense, so you have to be weary of some of the Cowboys. You have to make sure the price is there. The value's there, and if there's someone of equal value or even a little bit more expensive that has a far better matchup, you may want to look elsewhere. So this is a tough one to pick, but I think Cowboys' offensive weapons have some opportunity to be successful, especially guys like Michael Gallup, who have had a really decent rapport with the quarterback in Andy Dalton. So
I'm trying to think. I think there's one other game where both teams have stakes, other than there's the Washington football team Philadelphia Eagles game at 8:20. Which I don't even think Philly has any stakes in that game. But one other game where both teams have stakes is the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be an afternoon game, 4:25. Packers win, they keep number 1 seed, they get their bye week. They need to win to get the bye. Bears win, they make the playoffs. So I don't think either of these teams is going to be resting their starters. I think both teams are going to be a full go. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I think you may be a little bit more hesitant with the Packers going after keeping everybody in late in that game, but
if it gets out of hand, yeah,
right. Even though I do think the Packers will be a full go, just like the Bears. Obviously, the Bears fighting for a playoff spot, and the Packers fighting for that number 1 seed, the bye week. It's going to be a big one there. So I think both teams are full go, and I'd be comfortable playing pretty much anybody in this matchup outside of maybe Aaron Jones. So I think you'd look at that pretty comfortably. I mean, there's a guy in the Bears side of the ball that I really like, maybe even two. Not two, actually. There's one guy in particular I like for the Bears. On the Packers side, obviously Devontae Adams is a guy you look at every single week, even though the Bears defense is pretty good, and Aaron Rodgers is a guy you look at too. So there's the Packers side, I think, is a little bit.
I'm going to give you guys a hint. There's two guys I'm looking for in the Bears, and there's a couple guys that I'm going to be mentioning there on the show that terrify the hell out of me.
There's one guy in particular.
One of them's in this game.
I like. There's one guy in particular that I like. The other one I do not like, and I don't know if you're thinking of the same person here. But I'll give you my reasons why I don't like, and I'll give you a hint. It is Allen Robinson. I do not like Allen Robinson. Actually, you know what? I'll just talk about it now. I don't like Allen Robinson in this matchup for one reason in particular. He's going to be drawing Jair Alexander, who right now is graded out as the 4th best cornerback in the NFL per PFF.
Yep.
And if that's who he's drawing, he's going to have a lot of problems going up against Jair Alexander. So I would tend to shy away from Allen Robinson as having a big game type of guy. He may still end up with a solid line of like 6 catches for 70 yards, something along those lines, but that's not going to be a massive total for a DFS play at that type of price. So I would shy away from a guy like Allen Robinson this week.
And sorry, there is one other game where both teams have stakes that I forgot to mention. It's the Arizona Cardinals, Los Angeles Rams. Also an afternoon game. Whoever wins this game is in the playoffs. So it is safe to say both teams are at full go. However, what the interesting thing is, Goff is not playing for the Rams. He's hurt.
No, he is hurt. He dislocated his thumb in the last game, didn't he?
Yep.
Which is also my theory as to why Cooper Kupp stopped performing in that game.
Yep. And seeing the Cooper Kupp, he's also not playing.
Yes.
In this game, the Rams will be starting John Wolford, who has never taken an NFL snap, regular season NFL snap.
Yikes.
Arizona Cardinals. Cliff Kingsbury was being pretty mum most of the week on whether Kyler Murray was going to play or not, but it's starting to look like he's going to play.
He is not even on any injury report as far as I know, so he is going to play.
Yeah, although whether or not he's 100% is yet to be determined, I guess.
I think he is. I think he just had a situation where he was just pissed off.
Do you like with John Wolford at quarterback, are you staying away from the Rams entirely in this game?
Yes. Guy's never taken a snap in his life. An NFL snap.
Preseason snaps he's taken.
Regular season NFL snap in his life.
He was an AAF superstar.
Yeah, I'll pass. I mean, we did see an AAF quarterback for the Panthers perform pretty well against the Lions, but again, that was the Lions defense.
Yeah. All right, now we have several teams that are playing. It's kind of like a one-side matchup where one team is playing for something while the other side isn't. You do have the Cleveland Browns going against the Steelers. The Browns are still playing for their playoff lives. They're actually in control of their destiny. The Steelers don't really
hurt them so bad.
Yeah. The Steelers don't really have much to play for. I think they're probably set in the 2 or 3 seed, so I don't think they're going to get a bye week either way. The Miami Dolphins are playing for. Well, I don't think it's a must-win game, but I think they have multiple ways to get in. But if they win, they're in.
Yep.
And again, Buffalo does not have much to play for, so this is another slate where you can look at Miami. Buffalo, I'd be a little bit afraid to play guys from Buffalo.
I think they've already announced, aren't they, benching Diggs?
If they did, I missed it.
Okay.
But the Steelers already announced they're benching Roethlisberger.
Yes.
And
I expect more to come out of the Steelers.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I expect more to come out of the Steelers camp to be benched.
Right.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to keep going, but if you have some other things to add with those 2 games.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So the Ravens, one of my favorite teams to go for this week is the Ravens against the Bengals. Bengals obviously nothing to play for. Actually, they gain more by losing than they do.
Yes, absolutely.
And the Ravens win and they're in. So, and the Bengals are a shit defense. So I think I'm all in on Ravens players this week.
Lamar Jackson is very expensive this week, though.
Yeah. I have 3 favorite matchups this week. That's one right there is Ravens Bengals. The other one is Colts Jaguars. Jags obviously don't have anything to play for. I mean, even if they lose, they still get the number 1 pick, so they really don't have anything to play for. And the Colts, they're not guaranteed a playoff spot if they win, but they give themselves a shot. They need to win to have a shot at making the playoffs.
Yes. So the Colts will be a full go for sure.
And that's another game where it's a team vying for a playoff spot going against terrible defense. So that's another game where I love Colts players this week.
Yes, absolutely.
Third one is the Titans against the Texans. Texans don't have anything to play for. Titans win the division and a trip to the playoffs if they beat the Texans. And again, Texans, terrible defense. So
I do think
Titans,
the Texans,
Colts, Ravens are my 3
I
favorites.
do think the Texans, however, will be looking to try to play a little bit of spoiler.
Oh, they can do what
against the
they
Titans
want.
and a
But did you
divisional
see
rival.
the Titans did to them last time?
Yes, and I have some thoughts about that game as well. So here's how I want to kind of do this.
Yeah.
I want to structure it kind of the way we normally do with we're going to look at the expensive guys to target and also some value plays. Guys to avoid we can mention, but I also have a question with a couple of these positions on maybe some positional guys that could be starting in place of the everyday starter that maybe we take a look at in terms of a value play. So for that, I'm going to start off with the quarterbacks by going. Here's
Are you
my
talking about
first,
these matchups specifically, or
just in general, just in
well,
general.
we still have a couple more matchups to do.
Oh,
want to
okay,
touch on
go-
real
then
quick.
go ahead.
Yeah. Because there are a couple teams that you may not think are playing for anything, but they're actually playing for a bye week, and that's the Saints and the Seahawks. Saints going against the Panthers, Seahawks going against the Niners. So I just want to say don't necessarily shy away from those players because those teams do have something to play for. However, the teams that are resting starters, that's what we really need to touch on here. Kansas City Chiefs have already come out and said that they are starting Chad Henne at quarterback. So don't go Pat Mahomes, and I'm going to assume Tyreek Hill probably won't play either. And even if he does, he has Chad Henne thrown to him. So I avoid Chiefs players.
What's wrong with Chad Henne? That man is stuck around in the league for years.
And then we already touched on the Steelers and the Bills. Those are 2 other teams that are popular with fantasy players that probably will be resting starters. So, yeah, avoid that one. And then I guess Tampa and Atlanta, they both – Tampa has clinched a playoff spot. I do think they're playing for the division. So I think Tampa's still a go. You can still play your Brady's, your Evans, Gronk. You can do that. Atlanta doesn't really have anything to play for, but they can play spoiler. So on to what you wanted to touch on.
So I'm going to start with the quarterbacks here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first ask you a question about a quarterback who is starting in place of the normal starter and whether or not, based on matchup, you would consider him as a value playing guy you would look at potentially starting. And that is Mason Rudolph going up against the Browns. The Browns are a terrible defense, especially against quarterbacks. Mason Rudolph's only $6,500. That's pretty nice value at the quarterback position. Is that a guy you look at starting this week in DFS matchups as a fun start?
These are the kind of starts I'd love to try to take advantage of, go really cheap and see what I can get out of it.
Especially when the guy you really want to start at running back is $10,200.
Exactly. The problem is Mason Rudolph wasn't good when he was remember last year
he was not good.
Yeah, he was not good. I mean, I don't think he ever had more than a 2 touchdown game, if I'm not mistaken. And he had about as many picks as he threw touchdowns. He never even had, I don't think he even had a 250-yard passing game.
Right.
and it's not like the Cleveland Browns are some like
No, they're a bad defense.
World beating defense.
They're a pretty bad defense.
It's just if they're pulling Ben Roethlisberger, where does it stop? Are they going to pull Juju? Are they going to pull Deontay? Are they going to pull Chase Claypool? I just worry about the level of intensity the Steelers are going to come out with.
Not to mention some of the O-line maybe.
Yeah,
not
in terms
there,
of personnel. So I avoid Mason Rudolph. I don't think I go Mason Rudolph.
Well, if you do want to go cheap at quarterback and you like that $6,500 price tag, for just $100 more, I do actually have a guy that I would look at starting this week as a way to massage your lineup to be able to afford guys like Derrick Henry. And that's CJ Beathard going up against the Seahawks. The Seahawks defense this year has not been great. Granted, they have taken a big step up since Jamal Adams has come into the lineup. But the reason I do like CJ Beathard, and this goes to with his at $6,600, and this is going into his last start against the Cardinals at 3 touchdowns and 0 picks in his last start.
Yep.
Now, the reason I like CJ Beathard is because 17 of his, I believe, 25 or 27 passes went to tight ends or running backs, which Jamal Adams in that regard probably doesn't come into factor as much because those are check down type plays.
He checked down a ton in that game.
Exactly, and still put up 3 touchdowns and 0 picks. So it's not a huge game, but at $6,500, that may be worth taking a 19, 20-point game out of CJ Beathard to be able to get the 35, 40, 45-point game out of a guy like Derrick Henry. So, Andrew, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on going after a guy like CJ Beathard against the Seahawks defense that has been better. However, based on how CJ Beathard throws the ball, it may be worth taking a look at because of how cheap he is, considering guys, the weakness of the Seahawks defense can still be exposed there.
Yeah, CJ Beathard's interesting, and I'll be honest with you, if it wasn't for last game, I would have immediately said no. But it's the fact that he does like to check down, and it's not like the Seahawks are some great defense against tight ends. They're pretty middle of the road, so I think Kittle should have some room to run. Actually, I'm curious, how did Kittle perform against the Seahawks in their last game? I can pull that up real quick as I continue talking.
That probably would have been with Nick Mullins under center, but
you think so? Well, I'm just saying, and Kittle in general I wonder how many targets he's able to get.
Right, but
either way, Jeff Wilson has been fantastic, and
hint for later.
Yeah. So, and I do think it's going to be a run first game for the Niners, and I think when you do that, you kind of lull the defense to sleep a bit, which means I do think that Jeff Wilson will be able to have those check down opportunities. I do think he will be able to find those tight ends, those running backs. I still don't have a lot of hope because Brandon Ayuk's not playing, right?
He's questionable last
I think he's out. I thought they say
is he out officially? Okay, last I saw he was questionable, but he could be out.
So
I don't expect him to throw anything downfield.
Yeah, they did not. I was about to say, like, I'm not expecting any major, like, any big plays, any deep plays, anything to any of the receivers, really. It's going to be more on guys like Kittle, McKinnon, Wilson. It's going to be on those guys. Now, I just pulled up. Kittle did not play in their Week 8 game against the Seahawks. That was when he was injured. They had 3 total targets to tight ends between. This is the opposite. My bad. But anyway, so if I pull up against the Seahawks, the Niners they had 8 total targets to tight ends between Ross Dwelly and George Kittle. Kittle had 2 catches for 39 yards. He didn't really have a great game.
I think he ended up getting hurt in that game.
Was that the week that he got injured?
I think so.
It might be. Either way, I do look CJ Beathard's way. I am not expecting a huge week out of him. I'm not expecting anything more than 15, 16 points because if you look at his last game, yes, he had 3 touchdowns, but also he had, 180 passing yards, 170?
That's all he needs.
Yep.
It's all he needs.
So it's not like you're going to get the volume out of CJ Beathard, but you might get some of those red zone touchdowns, and that can get you to 15 points.
One of the things I like about the Niners and their offense in particular is everybody expects them when they're inside the 5, they just hand the ball off to Jeff Wilson. And so as a response, they've decided to go with a little play fake and just give Kyle Juszczyk the pass.
Yeah, Kyle Juszczyk had 2 touchdowns last night.
And so that's why I think CJ Beathard can get those short yardage touchdowns on a check down to Kyle Juszczyk or George Kittle or even Jeff Wilson or Jerick McKinnon down there and still rack up to touchdown points, which is how he got his 19.5 points last week. So at $6,600, it's not exactly like you're basically banking on when you're spending $6,600 on a quarterback to get you 19, 20 points, you're basically banking on your quarterback and the guy you are spending the money on to essentially switch scoring roles, where you hope your quarterback gets you 28, 30 points. Maybe you're hoping your running back in a guy like Derrick Henry to get you that 28, 30 points, and your quarterback to get you the 15, 16 to 20 points there.
When you're paying that low, you're really hoping for like 15 points.
Right. And
you're
then
ecstatic with a 20-point week out of
exactly.
the quarterback.
So that's why I do look CJ Beathard's way to help you massage your lineup to get in a guy like Derrick Henry or David Montgomery or Jonathan Taylor, something along those lines.
Yeah, you can't expect the 6,900 Andy Dalton play like last week. You can't expect that every week to get 27 points out of a quarterback you paid $6,900 for.
Right. I do have one guy, though, that I think that is only a little bit more expensive at quarterback that I am looking to go full bore on.
Okay.
And it's Baker Mayfield going up against the Steelers. The Steelers are probably going to be resting a lot of their defensive players. They've already announced Big Ben is resting. Even if they aren't saying that they're straight up out, I expect snap counts for the top defensive players like TJ Watt to be down heavily this week. Baker Mayfield's only $7,000.
Yeah.
And he probably gets, I shouldn't say he gets, but he probably gets his receivers back this week. They took them all away from him last week, and he wasn't good. But this week, he gets them back, likely. And at $7,000, that's an insane value for a guy like Baker Mayfield, who has put up some big weeks this year. And he's got weapons, and I know the Steelers' defense this year has been great, but again, I do not expect them to perform to that level this week because I don't expect their starters to be full go this week on defense. So I am looking Baker Mayfield's way to take advantage of the fact that the Steelers are probably playing for nothing. So I'd look that route.
Baker made that. I didn't realize he was that cheap. So like when he played the Steelers in Week 6, he was awful.
Mind you, that's against the starters, though.
Yes. So that's what I'm getting to is you're banking on the Steelers pulling defensive starters. If you're, in my opinion, if you're playing Baker Mayfield this week, that's what you're banking on. Yes, the Steelers haven't looked as good in recent weeks. I mean, they got Philip Rivers threw for 270 and a touchdown against them. Alex Smith threw for nearly 300 yards against them. I mean, they weren't even able to pick Ryan Finley off. Like,
right.
It's a risky play because you're relying on factors outside of your quarterback's play. If you ask me, you're relying on the Steelers to pull defensive starters, and if you ask me, they probably will. If you ask me,
mind you, also the Browns are playing for their lives this week.
Yeah, exactly. It's a high stakes game. I'll be honest, I don't love it just because of how volatile Baker Mayfield is being and just how good the Steelers defense is with their starters in.
With their starters in.
Yes,
that's the big wild card because I don't expect them to be playing their starters all game, even half the game.
I don't want. It's what I'm saying. I don't want to be banking on like a half a game of performance. Like
this is what Week 17's all about, though, baby.
So I probably shy away from Baker this week.
Okay, I mean, fair enough. I'm trying to be cute and have some fun with Week 17.
Don't worry, I got some cutesy plays.
I do have one play that honestly just. You look at, he's expensive. It's obvious they're playing for. I think technically speaking, they're playing for the division. I don't know, but Tom Brady.
Oh, no, what team? What team?
The Bucs.
What team? The Bucs. Yeah, they're playing for their division.
Okay, so Tom Brady going up against Falcons. Falcons defense sucks. Tom Brady has been on a tear lately and is looking like vintage Tom. So $8,400 is a lot, but I mean that's pretty much what you spend usually at a quarterback anyway. So
dude, he would have thrown like 7 touchdowns if they didn't pull him against the Lions.
At least. I was pissed when they pulled him because I had him in FanDuel and I had Mike Evans in my championship week. If Mike Evans scored another touchdown, I win. Damn it!
Oh man. All right. Do you have any more before we get to our actual starts and sits?
Those were my starts and sits.
Oh.
Like I just literally went. I'm just taking a different route this week.
Oh, I see. I thought it was like a separate topic that you were throwing.
No, that was my starts and sits quarterbacks. I wanted you to go through yours.
I'll give you some quarterbacks then. Okay. I'll start off with one along the lines of what what you were just doing. And this is, I'm not actually considering this guy's start. Fair warning. I am just telling you there is some intrigue here, and it terrifies the hell out of me. And I'll be straight up with you. I'm probably not going to go for it. However, I feel like I should throw it out because he is so cheap and because there is some reason for belief here. And that is none other than John Wolford against Arizona, $6,500.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Because let's if you're trying to fit there
for that,
yeah, it's the cheapest quarterback can go, basically.
I mean, Mason Rudolph, technically, at least he's got pro experience.
But if you're trying to fit Derrick Henry and his 10,000 plus salary this week, you're going to have to make cuts and like doing things like putting Mason Rudolph in or putting good old Johnny Wolford in might be the route. I don't know, but cutting at QB is always risky because
I mean, couldn't you just go $100 more for CJ Beathard?
well, true. Well, it does tend to save you a lot of money when you cut QB. You are getting a ton of flexibility in your roster, but you oftentimes end up cutting a lot of points if you cut at QB and get the wrong guy. But enter John Wolford at $6,500 salary. The Rams and Cards are both in a win now scenario, and it's weird to get a guy that hasn't taken an NFL regular season snap playing in a must-win game, and it's such a high-stakes game. The big risk here is that John Wolford's not the regular season pass, but the thing is, Sean McVay seems to have confidence in him since he's trotting him in over it. He has a quarterback on his roster that has starting QB experience. That's Blake Bortles. Well, it's not saying much, but he's putting him over him. He's putting him in over Blake Bortles. So you're hoping that if you make this call, that McVay is putting his QB in a position to succeed, and you're hoping that the Cardinals defense plays as poorly as they have the last few weeks. And the thing is, there's kind of evidence for both of those things being possible. So the Cardinals allowed CJ Beathard to throw 3 touchdown passes last week. Hurts threw 3 against him the week before. So that's 6 touchdown passes in 2 weeks. 3 of them to CJ Beathard, of all people. It should also be mentioned that these two teams face off earlier this month, and Goff was under center, and he'd have one of his best games of the season. So it's entirely possible that Sean McVay just knows how to game plan for this defense and how to expose them, which means he could put Wolford in a position to succeed. There's also the fact that Wolford is a guy that can also make things happen with his legs, so it kind of opens up the playbook for more red zone RPOs, which is also a great way to pad QB fantasy numbers. Again, I'm not looking to start John Wolford in this game. It's unbelievably risky. All I'm saying is if you're trying to gain some added flexibility, there are some signs that point to Wolford returning value. And at $6,500, that kind of a salary cut, it opens up a wealth of options at our positions. But again, I'm avoiding it, but I wanted to present people with the evidence and let them make a decision on their own here.
You've got me a little bit like half-mast at the idea of starting a $6,500 quarterback that's never like played a game in his life, never played an NFL game, and you've got me like, okay, do I do it?
Part of this was an exercise that can I really build a case for John? I was just trying to see if I could do it. And I half convinced myself as I was doing it. I'm like, I'm just going to present it and we'll see where it goes. I don't love it, but
I like to champion myself. I like to tout myself as an excellent arguer. Like I can argue any viewpoint. Ones I don't believe, I can argue both sides of a viewpoint. You know that very well.
Yeah.
I don't know that I can argue against you right now. Like, my only argument is he's never played an NFL down.
That's a big, that's a huge risk. You don't know what you're getting.
That's all I got. Like you
just straight up don't know what you're getting, and that's kind of the fun of it. Is what if he comes in as a stud? Like that's the fun of it.
Doing this episode's gonna cause me to run about 27 lineups this week. I can promise you that.
One guy that I'm actually considering a start, and this one does terrify me, though. I can't believe I'm actually naming this guy a start. I think this is the first time all season I've named him a start. But it is Mitchell Trubisky against Green Bay at $7,300. So Chicago is playing in a win in your end game. Green Bay needs to win and secure the bye week. So even though it is high stakes for Chicago,
hang on a second while I got to do something while you talk about your justification for starting Mitch Trubisky in fantasy. There we go. All right.
So even though Chicago has something to play for, game script is probably not going to be in their favor because Green Bay is also playing for a bye week. So I think Trubisky is likely going to be playing from behind most of this game. But believe it or not, Mitch Trubisky has been a top 10 QB over the last 5 weeks, basically since he emerged with David Montgomery. What? Yep. He's been number 9 over in the month of December. Actually, past month of December, since like week 11, I think it was. Last time they played Green Bay, which is in week 12, he put up 242 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also had 46 pass attempts that game, which was his highest total all season by a good 10 pass attempts.
Do it.
I'm looking for a busy day from Mitch Trubisky. What will probably amount to empty numbers because I don't think the Bears will win this game, but the numbers are all that counts for DFS. So I'm terrified by this one, but it just makes a whole lot of sense to me, which is why I'm throwing him in as a start of the week. At $7,300, it could return really good value.
Damn it, I'm going to end up running 20 lineups. There goes my wallet. There goes my stimulus check.
And like you had Tom Brady, I have one guy I want to pay up for. This is the guy I'm actually targeting this week. That is Ryan Tannehill against the Houston Texans. If the Texans win this week, they win the division, secure a playoff spot. And if you're curious about how this game is going to go, look no further than Week 6 when they last played. 366 yards and 4 touchdowns for Ryan Tannehill. Derrick Henry also ran for 212 and 2 touchdowns. This is going to be a bloodbath, and I want every piece of Titans I can get in this game.
You know it's Week 17 when we are the least excited about guys that we would have been excited about starting like a couple of weeks ago.
You know it's so unexcited when you're considering Mitch Trubisky.
The energy just drops when we talk about guys like Tom Brady and Ryan Tannehill that are starts this week because they're not exciting. So we just ran a long time on quarterbacks. So let's go and try to do things. I'm going to run through running backs real quick. You can throw yours right after. I'm going to go through the ones I say that are starts. Just my normal starts, not values or fun values or anything like that. So start Jonathan Taylor against the Jags at $8,400.
Got him as well.
He's been insane lately. Start David Montgomery against the Packers, $8,200. Packers run D is just garbage. David Montgomery's been on a tear lately, and they're playing for their lives. So I'd look at David Montgomery's way. Spend big on Derrick Henry going up against the Texans, as you just mentioned. He put up 212 yards and 2 touchdowns against them last time. He's very expensive, $10,200. But if you're going at a $6,500 quarterback, it makes it worth it.
Trust me, I'm sure you do too. I got plenty of value guys to help you fit in Derrick Henry.
I have some as well. Trust me. The value guy I was referring to from the Giants, and this is kind of the big one. You know what? I'm going to save that for last. Okay. One value that I do like this week, though, is Jeff Wilson Jr. going up against Seahawks, $6,300.
Jeff.
They really like to play spoiler, and dude's been on a tear lately. Like, they give him the ball religiously, and when you get opportunity for a guy like Jeff Wilson, he's going to succeed. So I think Jeff Wilson is going to have a pretty solid game up against the Seahawks. J.K. Dobbins going up against the Bengals. We mentioned earlier, Bengals defense is terrible. Well. He's only $6,400. Jeff Wilson is $6,300.
How many starts you have? Jesus Christ.
These are value plays as well as starts. Guys to avoid, I have Kyler Murray against the Rams. Forgot to mention that. And then I've also got Chris Carson going up against the Niners. I do have one more value play, but I wanted to give you your shot to give me any other starts or sits that I missed.
I do agree on Jonathan Taylor. And if you're wondering just how bad the Jags defense has been, they've given up top 10 finishes. My screen just spazzed on me. Sorry. They've given up top 10 finishes to running backs in 4 of the last 5 weeks. And the only guy who didn't get the top 10 finish was J.K. Dobbins, but he still finished as an RB2. He had 64 yards and touchdown, so it's not like he had a bad week. So, yeah, he's priced up, but I pay up for him. J.K. Dobbins, I also agree with you. He's had double-digit carries in 5 straight games, and he's had a touchdown in 5 straight games. He's been a steady RB2 for 5 straight weeks. Now he gets the easiest matchup outside of Jacksonville in a high-stakes game. I honestly had to do a double take when I saw that he was only $6,400 this week.
I still don't understand it.
Yeah.
They
just gave up 128 yards and 2 touchdowns to David Johnson.
It's like giving me free money. I don't understand why he's still so cheap. I've been touting him for a few weeks now. I think J.K. Dobbins is a play every week at that kind of price.
Ezekiel Elliott at $6,500. I actually like him this week against the Giants. And it's really the fact that the Cowboys offense has been steadily improving, and it culminated in a pretty big week for that offense against Philly last week. Zeke came out of that with 105 yards, 19 carries. He had another 34 receiving yards on 4 catches, which is not something you really see that often with Zeke. Meanwhile, the Giants' defense has actually been slipping the last few weeks. They have a lot of rushing touchdowns in 3 straight weeks. They've had a bottom 10 defense against the run in that span. This culminated with them allowing 162 yards and touchdown to the duo of J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, with a yards per carry of 6.23 to those guys. So I think the stars have aligned for fantasy owners who are willing to strike big on Zeke's bargain prices. So at $6,500, I like Zeke this week against the Giants.
All right, well, there's an option I can go.
And I have one deep value.
I have one deep value as well, and it's the guy on the Giants that I'm talking about.
Oh, not Giants then. Alexander Madison, $5,000 against Detroit. I'm really surprised.
Yeah, it's a deep value. That beats mine, actually.
Dalvin Cook's not playing this week. Unfortunately, he just lost a family member, and he will not be on the field. But yeah, if you want value, $5,000 for a starting running back going into second worst run defense in the league. Yeah, I'd say that's value.
I also will say that Alexander Madison, and at least in my opinion, when we've seen him in years past, and I mean in years past, and by that I mean last year, He's been equally as good as Dalvin Cook has been again in his opportunities. So Alexander Madison, I know in his one start this year was not good, but I think he actually could be really good this week against a bad Lions team.
Yeah, and it's really the matchup that gets me the most excited. It's the matchup. It's Dalvin Cook ran for 206 and 2 against him, and Madison still managed 69 yards and 12 carries, and he played like one quarter as a starter because he benched Dalvin Cook after the third quarter. So I think Madison's a perfect guy to cut salary with this week. At 5,000, that's an immense cut.
Absolutely. The guy I'm looking at a value, though, is at $5,700 for the Giants, and it's Wayne Gallman going up against the Cowboys. Cowboys are where the Lions are second to last. Well, I've got the last place defense in the league against the run. The Cowboys are the worst, 32nd in the league with their rush defense. And Wayne Gallman is a guy who can put up some big numbers when given opportunity, and this Cowboys defense is not good against the run whatsoever.
No, you're not.
So at that type of value, if you're looking ways to massage your lineup and take a risk, that's where you can go with Wayne Gallman at $5,700. But I do like the Madison one a little bit better, so I'm kind of
no, I do. Gallman's an interesting play this week because even though the Giants aren't playing anything, I don't think Wayne Gallman is like a guy.
The Giants are playing winning they're in. If they win and the Washington football team loses...
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Both teams are...
This is a do or die.
Both teams are winning. You're right. Sorry, I had blanked on that for a second. For a second, I just thought it was the Cowboys. I remembered it was both teams playing for that.
Both teams playing for that. The NFC East is quite literally just garbage.
Yep. I just keep thinking the Giants are like a 2-win football team, but they're not.
Surprisingly, they led this division at one point. Shall we pivot to receivers here?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to run through it the same way. Mike Evans against the Falcons, $8,100. I don't know why he's this cheap, but I'll take it. Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen going up against the Lions, $8,000 and $7,900 respectively. And then this.
Are you at all worried about them sitting? Because they're not playing for anything. Near the Lions.
I mean, yes and no. I think because it's a divisional matchup, they still want to take it to the Lions. Plus, I think with Justin Jefferson, they may want to still continue to see what they got there, and if they want to, because isn't Adam Thielen coming up on a contract here next year?
I actually am not sure about that, but I can find out in about 3 seconds.
Could be wrong, but I'm going to continue here while you do that. Yeah. Brandon Cooks going up against the Titans. Brandon Cooks had a massive week last week, and I think the Texans are going to look to play spoiler to keep Titans out of the playoffs. And I think Brandon Cooks...
He is not. His contract isn't up till 2024.
Okay, never mind then.
He just signed an extension.
Oh, that's right. He did sign an extension. But I think the Texans will look to play spoiler here, and Brandon Cooks has an opportunity against a bad Titans defense, and at $7,300 is pretty damn good value. Plus, no Kiki Kuti this week. I believe he's doubtful, if not out.
Did not know that.
And then I also have, which leads me to an interesting question that I have later on in this. Another one of those, it's really cheap, but is it worth doing? But I have Corey Davis going up against the Texans.
I like that.
Corey Davis has been a really, really, really solid receiver as of late with Ryan Tannehill. They've got a really good rapport. In some weeks, he's been better than A.J. Brown, and at $7,200, it's really tough to pass up. Yep. And then I will let you give me your obvious starts.
My goal is I don't have obvious. Well, I guess one is kind of obvious, but I know you don't agree with it from what you said earlier. But like, I guess one is, I wouldn't call it obvious. It's just a little more expensive.
I will then give me the expensive one, and then I will give you my value play, and then I'll ask you the question.
And then it's the more expensive one is, and it's really not that expensive, but Allen Robinson, $7,700 against Green Bay. And I know you talk about Jair Alexander, but
they played him without Kevin King at the number 2. That's why he was able to perform in that game. Kevin King is back, and they're actually performing really well together.
Yeah, but I mean, he still went up against Jair Alexander, and he had 74 touchdowns, 74 yards for 2 touchdowns.
Right, but he
didn't have any support. You're right. But here's the thing I do really like by Allen Robinson this week too is, again, game script will be in his favor. Target volume has been undeniable all season long, and it's just been on the uptick recently when with the Bears offense uptick. He's been a top 5 wide receiver over the last 5 weeks, given the circumstances of the matchup, given the game script, given the target volume. I like him this week, and I would actually even go so far as say I think he's a bit underpriced this week at $7,700.
Look at what all you have to look to shy you away from that is look at what happened to A.J. Brown last week.
It's true.
And I would consider A.J. Brown a better receiver than Allen Robinson in my mind. So I would shy away from Allen Robinson based on what I saw happen to A.J. Brown last week. Because that Packers secondary is actually really freaking good when they have everybody
When
there.
they're healthy, yeah.
Yes, and they do. They are healthy. Adrian Amos is one of the best safeties in the league right now, and that's on the side of Jair Alexander, so I'd watch out there. You have Kevin King in that lineup right now, who's healthy finally. And opposite Jair Alexander, they may be one of the better secondary duos in the NFC. So that's why I shy away from guys like Allen Robinson this week.
Well, let me add one thing too, though. With Allen Robinson, if you are looking at, let me go back. If you're looking at playing Mitch Trubisky, I think the only way I really like the Mitch Trubisky play is to stack him with Allen Robinson. So if you are one of the guys that doesn't like Allen Robinson this week and doesn't want to play him, I wouldn't go Trubisky either. I would if you're buying on Trubisky, you're buying on Robinson and vice versa, kind of thing. So
fair enough. I do have one value play. He's $5,400. It's Zach Pascal going up against the Jags. He seems to be the deep threat guy for the Colts. He's the guy who caught the big pass last week. He's one of their red zone targets. He's a bigger target, isn't he?
Zach Pascal? I actually don't know how tall he is.
Look it up for me. But he seems to be a guy that's getting the opportunity in the wake of Michael Pittman taking a big step back.
He is a bigger target, 6'2".
Yeah, okay. So he's a bigger target that Philip Rivers likes to throw the ball to, and Michael Pittman really hasn't been performing. So where T.Y. has been lately, so is Zach Pascal. So I'd look Pascal's way this week at $5,400, real cheap, up against a really, really bad defense in the Jags. So definitely looking that way.
My deep value here. Well, it's not that deep.
Let's see if it's the same one that I have. Go ahead.
It's probably not. Marquise Brown, $6,000.
It's not. Okay.
Yeah, against Cincinnati. Marquise Brown has been a terrifying receiver to play all season because you just never know what you're going to get with him. But in the month of December, he's quietly been a solid wide receiver 2 for the month of December. He's actually been the overall wide receiver 14 for the month. He's found the end zone 4 times in the last 5 games. And last time they faced Cincinnati, he had his highest target volume of the season, and he translated that to 6 catches for 77 yards, a touchdown. Add the fact the Ravens are facing a win-you're-in scenario, and I think this game is a perfect chance for Marquise Brown to return significant value on a cheap salary. So I like a lot of Ravens this week, including Lamar Jackson, including J.K. Dobbins, Marquise Brown, just another piece I really like.
I kind of don't hate that one, actually. And I was a guy who drafted Marquise Brown in my yearly long league, and he disappointed me much of the year. But this week could be a really good one for Marquise Brown. Hollywood.
Yeah, not many people realize how solid he's actually been this month. And he's still cheap, really cheap on FanDuel. I don't know what he is on DraftKings, but I'm sure around the same.
So with my next guy here is a guy who I'm curious to hear your thoughts, but it is Chad Hansen for the Houston Texans going up against the Tennessee Titans, who are a bad defense. And let me give you some reasons here. He's $5,200. He's cheap as hell at wide receiver. Kiki Kuti is doubtful for this game. And let me actually confirm that with Kiki Kuti. Questionable. Sorry, he's been upgraded to questionable. So he was limited in practice. An estimated limited in practice. So he didn't actually even practice. But so at $5,200 though with Chad Hansen. So let me give you some reasons to believe in him here. He's played 90% of offensive snaps in the 4 games that he's played for the Texans this year. And in the first 3 games, he posted 14 receptions, 212 yards, and a 38-yard touchdown in those first 3. So obviously he's a guy that Deshaun Watson is willing to throw the ball to. So against a bad Titans defense with, at the very best, a hampered Kiki Kuti, possibly no Kiki Kuti, is Chad Hansen a guy at $5,200 you're looking to go to massage your lineup a little bit to get some cheap value plays out of this week?
I actually don't hate it. You're talking about a guy that's had 20 targets in 4 games this season. That's 5 targets a game is actually significant target volume, especially in this offense where Deshaun Watson really likes to target his top guys and he does spread the ball around, but he really likes to target his top guys in this offense. I like it. It's especially against the pass defense like Tennessee. Even though Houston's not playing for anything, Chad Hansen's not a guy you're going to worry about sitting. He's going to be in.
No, if they are sitting anybody, it ain't Chad Hansen.
Yeah, my worry would be Deshaun Watson sitting. We don't know what the back will be.
We have not heard
backup
yet.
has a connection with Chad Hansen. I don't know. But as long as Deshaun Watson's playing, and as long as they're going against a secondary like Houston, and as long as Tennessee, as long as he's $5,200, don't hate the Chet Hansen play.
It was a deep cut. It was one I went way down. I took my finger on the FanDuel page and just flipped it. Just scrolled as far as I could.
And then you just close your eyes and you just press the screen and wherever land on, you're like, all right, we're making the case. No, I don't hate it. I actually don't hate it.
Do you have any other ones?
If I can afford to pay up an extra $800 and grab Marquise Brown, I do that, obviously.
This is what Week 17's about. I go deep.
No, actually, those are the only two receivers that are really at top of my radar this week. Were Marquise Brown.
Let's go to tight ends then. I've got really two.
Same.
I don't really have any deep values at tight end. But one of them is Gronk going up against Falcons, $6,100. Okay. Tempe still playing for something, and Gronk has obviously been a very, very big-time red zone threat for Tom Brady. And then Robert Tonyan going up against the Bears, $6,300. I believe he still leads the league in touchdowns. If not, he's like second or third. So red zone target Tonyan is the way to go at tight end.
I have two other ones. Mike Gesicki, $5,900 against Buffalo. Miami needs to win this game to make the playoffs, and Buffalo doesn't really have much to play for. So,
granted, who's starting at quarterback?
Tua.
Okay.
Don't worry, I looked that up before I put him in. And so there's a good chance Buffalo probably resting a lot of their starters at some point in this game. Gesicki actually had his best game of the season last time these two teams met. He got 8 catches for 130 yards and a touchdown. However, this Bills team is much improved against tight ends from where they were the last time these two teams met. But given the stakes in play for the Dolphins, and how much Tua has been targeting Gesicki, and the fact that he's still under $6,000 on FanDuel, I think I'm definitely targeting him in
That's like
DFS
stupid cheap for Mike Gesicki.
Yeah. And the other guy that I was actually really surprised how cheap he is Jonnu Smith, $5,200 against Houston. I don't buy the Texans are an improved defense against tight ends for the simple fact they've had mostly favorable matchups against tight ends in recent months, and the ever-reliable eye test is telling me they still stink. These two teams last faced off in Week 6, and Jonnu Smith left mid-game with an injury, but not to worry. Anthony Firkser came in and had 8 catches for 113 yards and a touchdown. I mean, I told you I want every piece of Titans I can get in this matchup. I think Jonnu Smith is a fantastic bargain piece at $5,300, especially considering Anthony Firkser did this defense. So I do like Jonnu this week.
All right, I like it. Shall we pivot to defenses to kind of finish things off?
Yep, I got 2.
I have 2 as well. Should I do
we have the same 2?
I don't know. I'm going to go. Okay, here's one I'll start with. Then I have a sexy one with my second one. It's okay. Very sexy, and it's why the hell would you ever do this? It's Cardinals going up against the Rams at $3,800. Deep value.
That's what I got.
The Rams, mind you, I know you wanted to go with the Wolford play and all this
stuff. This is the main reason I'm probably not going to, is because I do really want to play the Cards.
Because the Cardinals defense against a quarterback who has never taken a snap in the NFL, that's one that I look at as being a juicy matchup for a defense. Anytime you see a newly starting quarterback, you tend to target that with defenses. So I do like the Cardinals defense. I want to give my other one before you do, because I feel like we have the same one.
And don't forget that Cooper Kupp's not playing either. So
that is also true.
I don't understand how they're only $3,800 on FanDuel.
I don't either. I honestly, when I went to go put it in, I expected to see them around the $4,500 range, $4,400 range, and I just kept scrolling down, going, "What the hell?
Where are they? They're on the slate? What's going on?"
So I'm curious to see if we have the same one for the other one, but it's the New York Football Jets, Jets going up against the Patriots at $3,500. And you ask, why would you ever do that? Well, Patriots.
It's actually not insane, to be honest with you.
The Patriots offense is in total shambles right now, to the point where they put Jarrett Stidham in to really do absolutely nothing in their previous game. The Patriots offense is dead. Like, it's dead in the water. Cam Newton can't do anything. Jarrett Stidham can't do anything. And the Jets defense actually forced an interception last week. So I think that, considering they can't get the number 1 pick, maybe they'll come out and play a little bit. And at $3,500, one of the cheapest defenses out there, you want a way to massage your lineup. Defense is the way to do it. And the Jets defense against the Patriots, maybe one to look at.
I'm going to do something different here. I'm going to give you my defense. I'm not going to tell you how much it is. I want to build my case first.
Okay. All right.
The Seahawks against the Niners. The Seahawks have been a top 5 fantasy defense over the last 5 weeks. and they get to face a 49ers offense that's led by CJ Beathard, who's not an intimidating guy to go against.
No, he doesn't throw downfield.
They will be without Brandon Ayuk, and the Niners are allowing the most fantasy points per game to opposing defenses over the last 5 weeks, with 12.2 fantasy points per game allowed. You want their price? $3,900. Don't understand how they're so low.
Because they've been one of the most scored on defenses this year.
They've
in recent weeks they've picked it up. It's literally been Jamal Adams returned. That's what it's been.
Yeah. So yeah, I actually like. Well, actually, no. I think I probably like the Cards more, to be honest with you. But I do really like the Seahawks defense. $3,900 too. I don't think I'm going to 4,000 this week, which I don't normally do, but. I'm trying to get one of those two this week.
When you've got some wild card defenses like the Jets against the Patriots at $3,500, or the Cardinals versus the Rams at $3,800, or the Seahawks against the Niners at $3,900, like those matchups right there, there's no reason to go above $4,000 on defense this week. There's not.
No.
Could this end up burning you? Yes, it could. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do I expect it to? No. I
what I was
don't.
looking for? That because like in general, when we do these defenses, we try to keep under $4,000 in FanDuel. One though that I thought I was gonna be able to put in this week that didn't end up being as cheap as I wanted it to be was Chargers against the Kansas City Chiefs. FanDuel accounted for the Chiefs not playing their starters. They priced them up. Yep. It annoys me.
But they didn't account for like the Rams not having two of their starters in. Like I don't understand that. I mean, I know the Cardinals defense hasn't been great this year, but still. Like Chargers defense has actually been halfway decent later on in the year, so like their price tag has kind of risen lately. But either way,
I do want to really close it out with a couple guys that I just want to highlight to avoid. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins going against Jalen Ramsey.
Yes.
Nope. That's all I gotta say is nope. Kyler on the same
I did mention
game.
Kyler Murray as a guy to avoid.
Yeah, Kyler Murray. I'm agreeing with you there. Kyler Murray's and a lot of it is. Again, the Rams are a really good defense, good quarterbacks, and I just don't know what that leg is like right now. It scares me. Miles Sanders against the Washington football team. Avoid that. Miles Sanders hasn't hit the 70-yard mark since that 115-yard outburst against the Saints. And Washington's only allowed one 70-yard rush in the last 12 games. No reason to play Miles Sanders there. Darren Waller against Denver is the other guy I say to avoid. I said it last week. I'll say it again this week. Denver, even though they don't look like that intimidating a matchup on paper based on the ranking, they face probably the strongest slate of tight ends in the season, and still technically a top 10 team against the position. You know, they're back at the top 10. They're a top 10 team against the position. They've had 9 games against top 15 tight ends, 7 of those against top 10 tight ends. In those games, they're allowing an average of 52 yards and 0.2 touchdowns to those tight ends. They already held Darren Waller last time they played at 37 yards in Week 10. They even managed to hold Travis Kelce at 31 yards in Week 7, the best tight in football. I don't think there's any reason to pay up for Darren Waller this week at $7,800. So
he may be the best pass catcher in football.
Yeah,
Travis
honestly.
Kelce. All right, so Andrew thinks the Broncos are the best defense in the league. I'm kidding. Against tight ends. Yes. So real quick question, and this is more of like just a football question in general. Kyler Murray. So I heard on the radio the other day, someone said that they just don't buy into Kyler Murray as a quarterback in this league just yet. Do you buy into Kyler Murray as a quarterback in this league?
Yes.
Because I do. I think the dude's a fantastic quarterback. Like I think he could be one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league in the years to come. But anyways, that comment right there just like personally offended me, as he's been my quarterback this year.
I mean, he's a dual threat quarterback. He's a guy that can get done with his legs, and he's a good passer. Like
He really is. But anyways,
it's not like he has like last season. It's not like he had a wealth of options to throw the ball to.
No,
he was still
his number one receiver was Larry Fitzgerald,
and he still was a very productive quarterback. So like, I don't even buy the argument that like he wouldn't be anything without DeAndre Hopkins, because I don't think DeAndre Hopkins is the reason for Kyler Murray's success. I do think Kyler Murray is a fantastic quarterback, and I think he's a bottom end of it, probably around 10, but top 10 quarterback right now.
Fair enough. All right. Anything else to add before we close out?
No.
Nope. All right. That's going to do it for this week, guys. Thank you for listening and hanging out with us. We hope you had a very good football or fantasy football season and football season. You know, we hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, we will continue doing this throughout the playoffs with a bit of a different look because it is NFL playoffs, so there's less to choose from. But anyways, we thank you guys again for listening. Follow us on Twitter at RealFanReport. Andrew, thank you for joining me, and thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast. As always, we will catch you guys next week. good luck and have fun with this Week 17 DFS week.
Yeah, the stress of fantasy football is gone. Now it's just pick your guys.
Now it's literally just fun. Honestly, I do feel a lot better now that my yearly season is over.
This is how I've been feeling all year, baby.
Thank you guys again. We'll catch you next week. Have a good one. Peace out.
Peace.
Happy New Year.